Hello and welcome to the Hero Coaching Podcast with me, your host Mark Corner, empowering you to be the best possible version of yourself. Hello and welcome to the Hero Coaching Podcast with me, your host Mark Corner. Happy, beautiful day. And it's a Monday afternoon and I'm here with my Irish latte, chocolate, something that's a bit of a firm favourite of mine. I've run out of coffee, so what can you do? Anyway, on with the show. And today's topic is willpower. And have we got a show lined up for you? So we're going to start off by, so what is willpower? Well, if you look up the meaning of it, it is if you look on Google for willpower, it's your control exerted to do something or restrain impulses. So you could say that in retrospect of that, sorry, just taking a sip of the coffee. It's all real here, you know. Don't edit anything out. Basically, what it means is it's your own self it's you wanting to do the things that you won't normally do, even if it's something you don't normally want to do, if that makes sense. So it's a bit of a push-pull thing. You want to do something that's going to better your life, but then there's a part of you saying, oh no, don't do that. Do something that I'm familiar with, that I'm comfortable with, because we are creatures of comfort, let's face it. So you might be wanting to watch that the series on Netflix, and there's a part of your brain saying, oh no, well, you know, if you do that, then there's going to be no willpower left to, I don't know, write that blog post or even do that podcast or whatever else. So it's a bit of a push-pull thing, yeah? So let's get into the nitty-gritty or the meat and bones or whatever you want to call it. I'll just get my research up here. Right. There's something in willpower which has been people have been, how can I put this? They've been studied, yeah. We all have these studies, don't we, that excuse me, that revolve around people. There's something called moral licensing. So what is moral licensing? Well, it's this. You do something well for a week, yeah? And then you think, oh, well, I've done something well for a week now, so I'll have a week off, yeah? Which there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But here, but when this goes into particular parts of your life, this is where it starts to become a bit of a problem, because you could probably eat healthily all week and then for a couple of days you'll eat unhealthily. So what in actual fact is happening is you're sort of letting yourself off the hook, if that makes sense. Or you could apply that to doing exercise. You exercise well and then you start slacking off. You think, well, you know, I've done a couple of days or I've done a day, so what's the problem? So and the problem with this is it's okay, but over time it drains your willpower, because really, you know, you're sort of letting yourself off the hook, yeah? That's moral licensing. And they've also found there's a rebound effect that can affect people with their willpower. And a study was done around, this is probably a bit of a digression here, but there was a study done where they told people to not think of white bears. Now, you can try this yourself, and it does work. How many times have you tried not to think of something, and it just keeps popping up, popping up, popping up? A bit like a rubber ball, that just keeps bouncing back up and it won't go away. Now, the problem with this is, for instance, if you apply this to smokers, if you tell them not to think about smoking, then the people that don't think about the people that try not to think about smoking, they find it harder not to keep smoking. So it just keeps them smoking. But the way to get around this is, and this is a great tip, is let that thought come to the surface. Don't keep trying to push it down, because that's just going to drain your willpower. It's the same thing when you go shopping, and all these things are on, temptation. Like our local Tesco's, as soon as you go right round the door, there's sandwiches, there's crisps, there's donuts, and they're all there testing your willpower. Yeah. So the thing to do is, when these things come to the surface, just let them come to the surface. Don't try and push them down, because suppressing things like that just doesn't work. It's just best to let it come to the surface, and then eventually it will go away. We've only got a finite amount of willpower each day. It's a bit like a muscle. So, like anything, lifting weights or anything you do, it only gets better when you do more of it. So that's how you... it's like anything. They did a study around cookies and what they told people. This is a bit of it's not a digression, but it's all to do with the same thing. They did a study where they asked people if they wanted a cookie, and then they asked them to do several tasks. Well, a task involving numbers. But the interesting thing about it is, one group they spoke nicely to, and then another group they didn't speak nicely to. And the one that they spoke nicely to, they managed to resist and stay on focus and not think about the cookie. Whereas the other ones, they found it harder. So, how you speak to yourself and how other people speak to you can have quite a detrimental effect on your willpower. A long time ago in Stanford, I think it was Stanford, they did a study around children. Some people, this has probably been said so many times, but it's worth mentioning again, where they had marshmallows in front of them, and they said to them, you can either have it now, or if you wait, you can have 2 later on. And then the researcher went away and came back and either gave them the marshmallow, waited 10 minutes, gave them the marshmallow, or gave them 2 if they managed to wait, say 10 minutes, and restrain themselves. And you can actually go on YouTube and look at videos as it's being done. And what they found is, years later, when they followed them up, they found that the children that had self-control had better lives, made better decisions, had better careers, and so on and so on, and they weren't overweight. And compared to the other group who didn't manage to restrain themselves, lack of self-control really did make their lives worse. They were overweight, didn't have a very good job, not very good futures, and so on and so forth. Now, some people aren't going to be very pleased about this, but checking social media, email, other sites drains your willpower, because it's a constant fight for attention. Yeah. So if that's one of the things that you have problems with, and I do this myself, so I know how hard it is to not keep checking these things, but that is one of the things that actually can drain your willpower. Distractions are, there's a book called Deep Work by Cal. Is it Cal Newport? And they talk about this in there. The things that boost it. It's imperative to get plenty of sleep. Meditation can boost it, and exercise can boost it. Now, I'm going to talk briefly about some things that I came across to do with willpower. and this is just some research that I came across, and it goes like this. They've come to realise that most major problems, personal and social, centre on failure of self-control and compulsive spending and borrowing, impulsive violence, underachievement in school, procrastination at work, alcohol and drug abuse, unhealthy diet, lack of exercise, chronic anxiety, explosive anger. So that just goes to show you how, how much of an effect it can have on you. Also, poor self-control correlates with just about every individual kind of individual trauma, which includes losing friends, being fired, getting divorced. Winding up in prison, it can cost you the US Open. As Serena Williams' tantrum in 2009 demonstrated, it can destroy your career, as adulterous politicians keep discovering. Now, we all know about things like that, don't we? We was their willpower. I'm not mentioning any names here, by the way. It has become one of the most intensively studied topics in social science, and those experiments now rank amongst the most cited researchers in psychology. He and his colleagues around the world have found this is probably just cited from something else. He and his colleagues found around the world that improving willpower is the surest way to a better life. Now, I'll just find the other bits and bobs I've got. Good stuff, eh? Good stuff. And we're up to 11 minutes. So, I'm going to cut this short because, excuse me. Asks people to name their greatest personal strength, and they'll often credit themselves with honesty, kindness, humour, creativity, bravery, and other virtues, even modesty. But not self-control. It came dead last among the virtues being studied by researchers who have studied more than 1 million people around the world. Wow, isn't that amazing? I'll just read that again. If you ask somebody to name their greatest personal strength, and they'll often credit themselves with honesty, kindness, humour, creativity, bravery, and other virtues, even modesty, but not self-control. It came in dead last among the virtues being studied by researchers who have studied more than 1 million people around the world. Isn't that a great nugget of information? However you define success, a happy family, good friends, a satisfying career, robust health, financial security, the freedom to pursue your passions, it tends to be accompanied by a couple of qualities. When psychologists isolate the personal qualities that predict positive outcomes in life, they consistently find two traits, intelligence and self-control. And they do say that emotional intelligence outpredicts IQ. So if there's one thing you can do for yourself, it's get a grip of this. Because once you do that, your life will be absolutely off the charts, amazing, mind-blowing. So I hope you've enjoyed all of this. And I'll see you again next week on a Monday, which is when I normally do my podcasts. And I'll just tell you what next week's topic is, just in case you're interested. Just get me a... Right. Oh, a good one next week. I think, yeah. Talking about procrastination. So that should be an interesting topic for us to talk about. Anyway, I'm going to finish up now because we're into 14 minutes. Wow, didn't think I was going to be going on that long. Just amazing, isn't it, how you can get into these topics and get all the juicy nuggets. Hope you've enjoyed it. Any feedback would be much appreciated. I hope you're enjoying these podcasts as much as I am doing them. And I'll see you again on the flip side next week. So this is your host, Mark Corner, signing off from another Hero Coaching podcast. Have an amazing, happy, beautiful day. Take care now. Much love. Bye.